That's how we.
See a piece of paper that has a drawing of some kind of a structure like a house, it's very small. And it's really hard to get a concept of actual size from a small drawing. And so everything that students do today is on a computer, not in a book. And so what is their concept of size? So what I give them as far as choice is, you are going to design a structure. It could be an apartment, it could be a mobile home, it could be a house. It is between 600 and 800 square feet. And so then we begin to ask the questions, what does that mean? Well, if we were to take this room right here, if we were to go about from that side of the glass on the edge of the door, straight across to here, is about 600 square feet. So when you put a concept to that, it's actually quite small. So then I begin to guide the students in asking questions, what is the most important room in your house? So what this causes them to do is to go home and start to analyze things. What is the most important room in my house? Is it the kitchen? Is it the bathroom? Do I actually have a bedroom?
The kitchen.
Does a closet classify as a bedroom? And so when they come back, it's like, okay, now let's begin to think about some things. And I leave them with some questions of, well, if you do have a bedroom in your small house, is there a minimum size? Do you need a kitchen? Is there supposed to be a bathtub or a shower? So then they're able to do a little bit of research on these things. So what I found the first year that I did it is that it's so broad, we could spend the whole year on this very thing. So I kind of had to boil it down. So I had to guide the students. Well, you know, a toilet, you must have a toilet. You must have a sink. You don't have to have a kitchen. There has to be some kind of a kitchenette. You have to have some place to cook and some place to wash the dishes. That's it. Well, how big is the sink? So what I have them do then is to do the math on 600 to 800 square feet. And most of them come up with about 20 foot by 30 foot. That's 600, and then they kind of tailor it from there. Then they're guided. Okay, now, is your kitchen going to be this size? Is your bathroom going to be that size? And so they make a rough draft of it. So every student does this individually, and they took about a half an hour to do it. When they got done, I said, okay, now grab 3 other people and go over there and start talking about that drawing that you did. Do they like your idea for your dream house, your dream little structure? So they critiqued it a little bit, changed some things, and then when they came back, I said, okay, now into groups of 3, you're going to critique one another's, and you're going to come up with a design that you all agree upon. And then when you all agree upon that design, you are physically going to draw it to scale using mechanical drawing. And so this is some of the ideas that somebody came up. This is actually a final draft. They decided they were going to go with the 2-story. Problem is, you can't fit a staircase in there, so they said, well, could we get away with a ladder? So that actually invokes something, right? Well, it's kind of cool if you're 14. But now have 2 children and a bag of groceries to get up to the kitchen. So the whole thing is, it really causes them to think about things, you know? Their dream house, is it real? Is there municipal codes that you have to follow? Does Santa Clara County allow you to have 4 people in a 600 square foot house? So these are questions that are extremely important to analyze and realize. So this is kind of a final drawing. It is actually to a 1/4 inch scale. And they have the kitchen cabinets drawn, they've got the toilet. This is actually about 14 hours worth of work going through this critique and revision. So here's the catch of the whole thing at the end. When they are done with this, we will physically go into the parking lot, grab a chalk line, and snap this out full size. Then they begin to see, well, that bedroom that I thought was huge is actually quite small. And so the choice is that they have any design that they wish. If they want to have 3 bedrooms in it, fine. Does it meet the municipal code? Because yes, some students do actually have a closet for a bedroom. I have found that. So when they snap it out full size, it's kind of like, okay, now let's walk around, and they all critique one another. And we have a lot of math involved. Your corners have to be 90 degrees. We actually use a transit level. We use Pythagorean's theorem to do all this. years ago, I had a couple of students design something in the living room. The TV was as big as this screen right here, and the living room is no bigger than the screen. And so it's like, okay, now put a couch in there. And so as they're designing their little projects around here, I kind of walk around, like this student right here, this was kind of a second, not the final draft, but kind of a second. And I said, so what's this in the corner? He says, well, that's my stove. Well, if you look at the relationship between it, here's actually the wall right here for the kitchen. And so I said, that looks kind of big in relationship to your kitchen. And I said, what about that sink? And so we actually measured it, and the sink actually measures about 6 foot by 9 foot. So I said, that's cool. You can wash the dishes, take a bath, wash your car, all at the same time.
Wash the dog.
And he looked at me and I said, that's really cool. I said, but who's going to pay the water bill? How often do you have to change out water? So you can see it really sparks a lot of thinking into students as to, you know, there's a lot of thought that goes into somebody physically designing a building. There really is. It's a lot more involved in that. So it's kind of a very complicated project that I've tried to narrow down to make it simple enough that they comprehend, that they do the research. We do some online thing as to the municipal building code. What's the minimum size bedroom that you have to have? If you have a hallway, you know, does a hallway that's a foot wide actually work, or does it have to be a certain size? The door that goes into your bedroom, do you need a door? Do you actually have to have a partition wall for a bedroom? Can my whole house be in one big room like this? And so these are all things that you can look up municipal building codes and actually ask questions for inquiry. So all along the way, there's sustained inquiry. They're constantly critiquing and revising. And the way it works is that each team of 3 students, every one of them has to draw that same plan. So most of the time there's 7 or 8 groups, so we have 7 or 8 different designs, but each group, all 3 have to draw their own. So they don't just rely on one person. And so they all have to work in sync together to say, okay, wait a minute, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. And so there's a lot of peer grouping and so forth that goes on. I find it really cool when they get down to the end and we physically snap it in the parking lot, that they actually say, wow, this is not what I thought, which is usually the result of that. The reason that I'm not actually finished with it is because the rain. This project has actually been delayed about a month because we had a whole month of nothing but rain. I usually do this in February.
Rain this weekend.
Yeah, and so some students are actually ready to snap it out tomorrow. The problem is it takes about 2 days to physically do this. So it's kind of working around the weather, yeah. Okay, so some of the things that I was working on as far as the PBL is, it really is a challenging problem. Living space, especially we see in our area, we have these big apartments going up. They're very small, they're very compacted. The parking lots that we put our cars, you can't even fit a motorcycle where you can open your door, so space is really becoming a problem. And so, are they changing the municipal code so that people can live in smaller square footage? Is it authentic? Yeah, it's real, because we see that students live in this all the time. Many of our students live in a 600 square feet apartment. There's 7 or 8 people living there. That's totally illegal and totally dangerous. It gives them an idea to reflect on standards, on culture, because you know in some cultures the size of the house doesn't really matter.
Japan.
Japan, exactly, yes. And so the teaching practice that I really keyed in on was the scaffolding. This information right here, just to draw this simply by scale, we spent about 2 weeks in January learning how to draw. And so it really does have to scaffold. You know, learning about dimensions, what does 10 foot actually mean? Now take that and put it down to a scale, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. In comparison to a blade of grass, how much of a scale is that? So it really brings in a mindset to kind of creatively thinking about it. That's why I don't have a lot of electronic media along with it, because the students have to actually visualize this in their head. When you design something, it's something that you pull out of here. This is the way I want it. We can get ideas, but where does it actually come from? And so it really accesses the student learning. This was actually a student who thought this was his final drawing. And so I said, no, that's not actually gonna make it. First of all, it's not properly to scale. First of all, most of it you drew with just by your hand. You didn't actually use the tools provided. And so it really taps into student learning modules, and some of them really struggle with this simple thing that we might look at this and say, oh, that's really simple to do. But there's a lot that goes along with it. Okay? Yes?
There's a really great book I could suggest to you, and it's about, this author wrote, and it's the history and background, it's called like The Home, and it's basically this historian researched, where does the living room come from? Where does the bedroom come from? Where does the bathroom, like, because they were never always part of our homes or houses, and it talks about the facts of it, and then the history and the design of it.
Yeah.
And it would be a great companion piece with it, because it gives you all the, at one point, houses were all one room, and everybody slept on the floor. And then, maybe talks about the hallway, like what is a hallway, like that concept, because some of these concepts they were all invented at one point. It would be a great book.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea, because that is one of the things we talk about. Why do they call it a living room?
Yeah, and it goes through all the words and like what they mean, what culture they came from.
Yeah.
It's a great read.
Yeah, thank you, that's a good idea. Yes?
It would be fun to actually have some, like, twin beds and couches and things to go sit down inside the chalk outlines.
Well, we are working on that. I actually have made templates of the toilet.
Oh, okay.
And yes, what we do is we have them stamp out the size of a bed. And so it's a little hard to make mock-ups things full size. That's the problem with it. A toilet is really easy because we can make it in 2 or 3 pieces. A bed, I guess we could do things, but the problem is where do you store all this stuff?
Right.
And so I just say, I kind of give them.
an old toilet.
There you go. Yeah.
You
We
could
kind of
mix-
go with an average size of a bed and say, a single bed is this size, a double bed, and then I'll say, okay, now where do you want to put your bed? And then they will physically snap it out. Sometimes students bring cardboard and we cut it out and set it down there.
Yeah, you could make like little cardboard or plastic templates.
Yeah.
And then
PVC beds.
when you do the scale thing, because there are issues with scale and size, you can take, the 1/4-inch scale of the bed, and you plop it down in their room or the sink, and you're like, that's what it should be.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh,
Well, they actually do draw it to scale because I give them the dimensions. The thing is associated with full size,
yeah.
real life. That's where the comparison comes in.
When my wife does designing, she actually takes every piece of furniture that we have and cuts it to scale so that we can move it around in the
Yeah.
scale drawing that we have done.
So you only have to move it once, she moves it a whole bunch of times, and
Well,
then you
yeah,
actually move it one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah.
said we could do that, which means it's actually a design class. And that's not what we are.
Yeah.
So this is a project just to see the association between that, and it begins to let students know, hey, I really can design something later on in life. Do I want to take some schooling? And then we talk about architecture, what it means to become an architect, how much school is involved. If I were to engineer this to build it, would this work here? How strong would this wall have to be? So it's actually very, very detailed, but I'm trying to take just a small snippet of that in there.
Suggestion,
Uh-huh.
you know what how our Murphy bed is? It's on the wall, at night it's a bed, so you put it out there, isn't it? So it's up there, maybe decoration at daytime, and then there's, chairs there at night.
That's for them to come up with.
Yeah.
they-
Yes,
yeah,
and
that's
actually,
what
believe it or not, many
that's
students,
right.
many students ask, they say, they don't know what it is, but they say, I've seen these beds that hold into the wall.
Mhm.
And I said, well, okay, how would you turn that into your room? And that's that where you walk around the room and you're kind of checking, it's like, that looks like a really small bedroom. Are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
Are you sure that you want to have walls around your bathroom, or it's kind of open? Do you like your privacy? So that's the thing where you walk around, and that's where you.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.